Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we're breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate, the Chargers versus the Raiders. And I gotta say, I'm looking forward to this game. We got a lot of good fantasy options here. No one's really overly expensive. The most expensive guy we have is 10K, so it's like we're trying to fit in a 15K guy. So I am looking forward to the slate. I think it should be pretty fun. We can build a decently balanced lineup, which I always prefer. So anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single week for the NFL season, my Slack chat, cheat sheets, I do NBA as well every night. Links are in the description below for my Patreon, and let's get right into the video. So, just going to go down the list here, and then we'll talk about each guy individually. So, Phillip Rivers, he's 10,000. He's the most expensive guy on the slate. Deservedly so, maybe not, but he's a quarterback, and I will say he hasn't exactly been great for fantasy this year. But don't get me wrong, he's had some good games like Tennessee, Miami, Houston, Indy all had over 20 fantasy points, but he's had some really sucky ones too. Detroit, Denver, Chicago, and Green Bay. He's had mostly 11-point outings and a 6-point outing in there too. So those are rough. So he's been pretty hit or miss this season so far. But this is a tremendous bounce back week, I should say, versus Oakland, it should be a bounce back week versus Oakland, who just continues to get shredded through the air. They're giving up 25.7 points per game to quarterbacks this year, which is second worst, only behind Arizona. They've allowed 22 passing touchdowns, which is second most, and they've already had their bye week. And they've allowed the most passing yards per game. I believe they're like fourth in passing yards allowed, and they've already had their bye week, and the other teams ahead of them have not had their bye week yet. So they are getting killed through the air in their 29th DVOA versus the pass. So yeah, feel free to play Rivers here, and it's hard to envision him not getting at least 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, especially with all the talent he has around him, and Allen, Henry, Ekeler, Gordon, Mike Williams. So I don't see how he's going to bust here. I mean, it is Phillip Rivers, so you never know, but I think he's going to be fine. And I will say there's some better captain options than him, I would say, but I do think he's a great flex play. So I do think you should probably play him on this slate. I can't imagine me not playing him in my main lineup. And captain spot, probably not. I probably want to get a wide receiver, running back in there, or maybe even a tight end. But I do think he's an excellent flex play. So Phillip Rivers, I would get him in your lineups. Derek Carr, 9,600. I'm not as high on Derek Carr. I'm not as high as I am on Rivers, because I really like Josh Jacobs in this game. But the Chargers have been more beatable on the ground. Because the Chargers have been more beatable on the ground. But through the air, they're only giving up 15.3 points per game to quarterbacks, which is 6th fewest in the league. But they are 23rd DVOA versus the pass, so they aren't locked down by any means. But I really don't think Carr's ceiling is that high in this matchup. He's only been above 20 points once this season, and really just a bunch of mediocre performances. Besides that, I mean, 19's fine. 23, 17, we'll live with that. 8, though, that sucks. 14, it's whatever. 16, 11, and then a week 1 he had 14. So he hasn't been great. I mean, he's had a couple of okay games, especially the past 3 weeks. He's actually stepped it up a little bit. But Derek Carr, I think he's fine. I mean, we always like quarterbacks on showdown slates. I'm just not like over the moon on him. But the Chargers have been tough, but the 23rd DVOA versus the pass. So I mean, it's a little beatable there, but it's not like a defense I'm looking to attack with quarterbacks, just in general. But it is a showdown slate, so it is what it is. Quarterbacks are always in play. Yeah, I just wish he was a bit cheaper, but I think he's fine. I don't expect anything slate breaking from him, but he's in play in the flex for me. Definitely not in the captain. If you want to be, I think he's gonna be very low owned in the captain. So maybe if you want to get different, but I really don't have that much interest in Derek Carr being my captain, because I'd rather play Josh Jacobs in the captain. But speaking of Josh Jacobs, 9,400. So he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I'm not saying you have to captain him, but I do think he's an excellent flex option, and he's gonna be popular. So it's not like it's a hot take or anything, but the guy's really good, and I mean, he's really, really good in my opinion. He's second in elusive rating, only behind Chris Carlson on PFF, and he's third in yards after contact per attempt. He's fourth in yards after contact, and he's second in avoided tackles this year with 40, only behind Chris Carlson. So him and Chris Carlson, they're just topping the charts over at PFF, and they're two good running backs. And Josh Jacobs, I think he's got a lot of talent. I mean, he looks pretty good if you ever watch him play, and he's running behind a solid offensive line, capable of opening holes for him. And he's also seen heavy volume, which I love. And he had 28 touches last week. 28 touches. He had 30 opportunities, and that's elite level volume. I mean, he's not gonna do that every single week, but he's got the upside of that, and it's really all you can ask for out of your running backs is volume. And the good thing is, it's good when you have a good running back that gets good volume, because sometimes that's not the case. So Josh Jacobs, I like him a lot. He's 8th in rushing attempts per game at 19 rushing attempts per game. This is a very beatable matchup on the ground versus LA. They're 25th DVOA versus the run, and they're giving up 26.6 points per game to running backs, which is 8th worst in the league. I can't really see the Raiders getting blown out here, and neither does Vegas. They're only, 1.5-point dogs, I believe, at home. So should be able to stay close in this game. Should be able to run the ball, which is what they want to do. The Chargers offense hasn't been great so far. I mean, I think they're going to be fine versus the Raiders, but it's not like the Chargers have been blowing anybody out. They've been struggling. So I think Jacobs should be in line for a big workload, and he's one of my top targets on the slate. I shouldn't say the Chargers offense is like completely struggling, but ever since Melvin Gordon came back, they've been sputtering a little bit, but I think they're gonna be fine. But Josh Jacobs, he's one of my top targets on the slate. I love him. I love him as a player, and this is a good matchup. So do like Josh Jacobs at home versus the Chargers. Keenan Allen, another guy that's one of my favorite plays on the slate. He might be my top captain option, which it's a little bit scary from what he's done recently, but you can't have recency bias in fantasy football or DFS. You gotta look at the matchups, and you gotta look at the talent. You gotta paint a picture of what can happen. I think good things can happen in this game for him. It's got to be his bounce back spot. After a hot start to the season, he's really sucked since week 3. If you look at his numbers. So to start the season, 29, 17, 46. That was awesome. And then I was all in on him. I was all in on week 3 for him. And then he had that great game. And so then I was all in again versus Miami. Yeah, he sucked. And ever since then, 9, 5, 5. 10, 12, which, it's okay, but not with the price you're paying for Keenan Allen. Then 7, that's not good. It's not going to cut it. But Oakland, they are so bad versus the pass. And I got to say, though, Keenan Allen, he has fallen off a cliff, ever since the Hunter Henry and Melvin Gordon thing back involved. But he's still one of the more talented receivers in the league, and this matchup is amazing. The Raiders are 29th DVOA versus the pass. They're giving up the second most points per game to wide receivers with 44.5 points per game. So I think him and Mike Williams could have a pretty big game here. And Hunter Henry, I like the passing game a lot here. And it looks like he's going to get the targets, and I don't see who's going to stop him on this defense. He should see slot corner LaMarcus Joyner the majority of this game, and he's one of the worst rated defensive backs on PFF this season. So he should be able to eat, and if he doesn't, we got a serious problem with Keenan Allen, but I think he can do it in this game. And I'd say he's one of my top options for the captain spot in this matchup with his upside. I think you should probably get him in the flex spot no matter what. But captain spot, he's up there with one of the top targets. I like Josh Jacobs a lot. I like Keenan Allen a lot. Phillip Rivers is fine. Mike Williams, maybe we'll talk about them. Hunter Henry, they're all in play too. But Keenan Allen, I think he's one of the more stronger plays in the captain spot. Next guy, I believe it's Darren Waller. Yeah, he's 8,600. So Darren Waller. Uncharacteristically, he only had 2 targets last week, which is not what we're used to with Darren Waller. He still had 52 yards, so he had 7 fantasy points, but we need more than 7 fantasy points because he is very expensive most slates, and that would be the case again. He's 8,600, and really, he's been one of the more involved tight ends in the league this season, and in this offense. He's third in target share, fourth in weighted opportunity share, and he's been very consistent this season. Before the last game, where he only had 2 targets, he was top 2 in every single category, him and George Kittle. But I gotta say, the Chargers have actually been pretty good versus tight ends. But Waller should be fine. He's talented. He's gonna see volume. He's gonna see more than 2 targets. That's probably not gonna happen again. And we know he's got a ceiling. We've seen his games versus Green Bay. He had 34 fantasy points, 12, 30, 12, 14. He had a couple, 7, 9, 7 games. But it's not terrible. It's not like he's ever been completely drowning your lineup. At 7, it feels like he's drowning it, but, you could see worse out of some guys. So I think he's fine. He'd be a more contrarian option in the captain spot. He's not really someone I don't really want to captain him. I think there's better plays. But if you want to get contrarian, I think that's fine. But I do think he's a decent flex play, but I'm not sure how easy he's going to make my main lineup because I'd rather play Jacobs, Rivers, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, those kind of guys. So he kind of falls in a bad spot. If he was a little bit cheaper, yeah, but 8,600 is going to be tough for me to play because I'd much rather play Hunter Henry at 8,400, which we'll talk about now. I think he's a tremendous play here, and he's seen the volume, and he's been very good since coming back since week 6. He's seen 33 targets since week 6, and the Raiders are also the 3rd worst team in the league versus tight ends this season, giving up 16.1 points per game. He's pretty much top 5, top 6 in every single category for tight ends when it comes to opportunity. So there's nothing not to like here, and I think he's a fantastic option. 10 targets last week, 15 points, 6 targets, 8 targets, 9 targets. Then week 1 he had 5, but he's been very good. And Hunter Henry's not had a bad game yet this season. His worst was 8 versus Chicago, which you'll take that. So Hunter Henry, I think, is a good option. It's a great matchup. I think he gets into the end zone. It wouldn't surprise me if he had a 100-yard game, close to double-digit targets, if not more. So Hunter Henry, I think he's a really strong play on the slate. Might go a little bit low owned in the captain spot. Might be a nice contrarian option there, but I do think he's an excellent flex play. Tyrell Williams at 8K. I'm not that interested in him, I gotta say. He did have his first week without a touchdown last week, but he still logged nearly 8 points. But no, he's been fine though. 7, 18, 12, 11, 15, 25. He's been good. Nothing bad you can really say about him. But the matchup, it's not great. I will say though, this is a old revenge game narrative versus his old team, the Chargers, so maybe we get some extra added motivation there. But I gotta say I'm not big on him on this slate. The Chargers have been pretty good versus wide receivers this season, and there's some other plays I like in this price range more than I already talked about them. Hunter Henry, uh, Mike Williams, and some other guys in this price range. I think that are better plays. I'd rather play Darren Waller. I think it's close, but Williams is cheaper, so there's that. But not too heavy on either one of them. But like I said, the Chargers have been pretty good versus wide receivers, and I think they're top 10 in points allowed to the position, which I guess I should word that different. It's a bottom 10 matchup for Tyrell Williams is what I'm trying to say. It's not a good matchup, and he's going to see a lot of Casey Hayward, and on PFF, he is the third worst wide receiver versus cornerback matchup of the week. So it might be tough sledding for Tyrell Williams, and I don't have too much interest in him. I mean, if you're building a whole bunch of lineups, yeah, you could put him in a few, but probably not going to make my main lineup. Mike Williams at 7,400. I like him a lot. I think he's one of the better plays on the slate, and I already went over how bad the Raiders' pass defense is, so I'm not going to repeat it, but they are really, really bad. And we know he can hit the big plays here. He's 11th in market share of the air yards in the league, top 15 in air yards, all without a touchdown so far this season. And he's coming off a double-digit touchdown, year last season, so he's due for some positive regression in that department. And there's really not a better matchup to do that than this one versus one of the worst pass defenses in the league. So Mike Williams, I think he's an extremely strong play. If you don't want to play Keenan Allen and you want to get all your ownership on Mike Williams, I think that could be a nice leverage spot. I mean, you can play both. I'm not saying you can only play one, but I like the discount you get with him, 7,400 compared to Keenan Allen's 9,000, and he's been good. 17, 9, 8, 12, 13, 7, 11. 4, his worst game was 4. I think he's a pretty good play on the slate. He's got big play upside. The touchdowns are coming from him, and they could come in bunches in this matchup. So Mike Williams, he's one of my top plays on the entire slate. And 7,400, I don't hate it. Melvin Gordon, 7,200. We got a trio of Chargers here that seem a little cheap here. Melvin Gordon, he's coming off with a pretty good game. He's certainly happy with the offensive coordinator switch last week. Finally got going, 20 carries, 80 yards, 4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 4 targets, caught 3 of them for 29 yards. It was a good matchup, too. He took advantage of it, and it was surprisingly a positive game script versus the Packers. But, he took advantage of his opportunities and got into the box twice. Raiders have been pretty middle of the road versus the run, 11th DVOA. But it's just so easy to pass on these guys. It makes their rushing numbers look a little bit better than they are. I think you can easily run. I don't think you can maybe completely easily run on these guys, but I mean, they're not going to just downright stop you. Melvin Gordon, Austin Ekeler should be fine. He's going to get you 20-plus touches and some receiving work in there mixed in. So I think he's fine at this price tag. And he might even be more interesting because he might go a little bit lower owned because everyone's going to be on the passing game. Deservedly so. I'm going to be on the passing game too, but I think Melvin Gordon's a fine play too. And I don't know if I've just noticed this. Did they just change his picture? He's got some white stuff going on in the dreadlocks. I've not mentioned that before. I've not seen that before. So anyway, that doesn't matter. I just caught my eye just sudden. Anyway, Melvin Gordon, I think he's a fine play. Austin Ekeler at 7,000. I think he's fine too. He's not going to see as many touches as Melvin, but he's typically more efficient than he is, and he's going to see his heavy involvement in the passing game, even though they had the same amount of targets last week. But I trust Austin Ekeler in the passing game more than I trust Melvin Gordon. He has a 19% target share in the year, which puts him in play every single week because, it's just a nice floor to have with someone that's heavily involved in the passing game. And he's good too. He's not a scrub. And he still saw 12 carries last week, had 5.8 yards per carry, so he was more efficient on the ground, but he did not get into the end zone. That was Melvin Gordon. I think more often than not that Melvin Gordon is going to get these goal line carries. So if Austin Ekeler wants to get into the end zone, I think he's going to have to break a long one, or he's going to have to get a pass and just turn it up in the red zone or something like that. So Austin Ekeler, I think he's fine. He's certainly capable of having big games. He really hasn't had a bad game yet besides Pittsburgh. Other than that, he's been good. You can't use these numbers, obviously, because Melvin Gordon wasn't playing, but 5, 28, 10, 13, those are fine. Those are fine games. I know he's had some games where he's really low in the carries with Melvin Gordon back 5, 5, 3. Last week he saw 12, which was nice, but now he should be able to get you double-digit touches in this game, and I think he's going to be fine. So Austin Ekeler, he is in play for me. Obviously can't play any of these backup quarterbacks unless you're nuts. Hunter Renfrow at 5,000. He's kind of a meh kind of guy. I think TYRELL might struggle here a bit versus Casey Hayward. It's not an easy matchup in the slot. It's not an easy matchup in the slot either for Hunter Renfrow versus Desmond King or anything, but it's definitely easier than Hayward, I would say. He's not a big play guy though. Besides week 8, I know he had that 65-yard touchdown, but other than that, he has an average depth of target of only 5.7 yards, which is not good. He only has a 9% market share of the air yards, so you know, he's probably gonna have to get into the end zone for you to get to make you happy. But he has seen an uptick in targets. I mean, I shouldn't say an uptick. I mean, it's kind of the normal. But he saw an uptick in targets last week. He had 7 targets, 6 catches. Did get into the end zone, only 54 yards though. But he did see 8 targets in week 2 versus Kansas City. Only had 7 points. So really, we're probably going to have to get into the end zone here. He's not going to make many big plays whatsoever. I think he's a decent lineup filler. So if you have 5K left and you have to throw in Hunter Renfrow, that's not the worst in the world. I wouldn't be too upset about it. So not really too much on my radar, but I think he's fine. Chargers defense, I don't have a lot of interest in either defenses, but if I had to pick one, I would go with the Chargers just because, Derek Carr, I don't really trust him. He doesn't scare me to death anyway. So I guess I'd pick the Chargers. They are the favorites. Not by much, though. It's a high Vegas total, so I'm not too interested in the Chargers defense. But if I had to pick one, yeah, Chargers. Badgley, he's my favorite kicker on the slate. It's not saying much. I mean, kickers are what they are. If they hit their field goals to get opportunities, yeah, they become good plays. He had 4 field goals made last week, 16 fantasy points. If he does that again at 3,800, yeah, I'll take that, 3,800. I don't mind him. So I think he's going to be popular. Kickers are usually popular because they're nice lineup fillers at the end. So Badgley makes sense. CARLSON pretty much scores 7 points every single game. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 2, 4, 6. Yeah. I mean, he's fine if you have 3,600 left. I mean, it's whatever. Raiders defense, no thank you. I mean, contrarian play from building multiple lineups, but not going to be on my main lineup. Jalen Richard at 3K. I guess he's worth a flyer here. So I guess he'd be in play if you go with the approach that the Raiders fall behind early because, he's their pass catching back and just in general, he's involved in the game plan. He's playing over 30% of the snaps last week and actually had his most productive game of the season too. He had, 9.8 fantasy points, 2 carries, 12 yards, but 4 targets, 3 catches for 56 yards. I believe that was his best game of the season. Yeah, it was. So, I mean, really, outside of that, you're pretty much just getting a few points per game. But if the Raiders fall behind early, yeah, I think he's fine. But I don't have too much interest in him. I think this game stays close. I do think it's the Josh Jacobs show over here. So, not too much love for Jalen Richard, but, worth a flyer, deep tournaments. Zay Jones at 2,600, I think he's a decent punt play. I guess he's not a technical punt, but he's a good value/punt option. He played 92% of the snaps last week. So he's on the field, which is all we can ask for at this price tag at 2,600. He only saw 4 targets, though, so he's a low volume play, but so is everyone else at this price point. So I don't think he's a terrible play, and I think he's fine given our options down here at this price range. He's really the only guy I had really any interest in, besides maybe Jalen Richard, very deep GPP play, but Zay Jones, I think he's fine. Oakland loves using the tight ends. Maybe one of these guys catches a short touchdown. I know last week he had 2 targets, 1 catch, 3-yard touchdown on the goal line. Yeah, I mean, that's all. It's what you need out of this. But 2,200, I don't really want to bank on that for 2,200. DeAndre Washington. Yeah, DeAndre Washington. I almost said Dwayne. I'm thinking of was he the Lions running back? I don't remember, but yeah. Anyway, not on my radar here. I mean, he might get you a couple points, but I mean, there's not a lot of upside there. Trevor Davis, he only played 1 snap last week, I believe. Yeah, 1 snap versus Detroit. Not going to be on my radar. Especially with Zay Jones, so he doesn't make any sense to play. Derek Carrier, didn't he have a 21-yard run last week? Yes, he did, and that's all. 27-yard run, and that's all he did. Outside of maybe a goal line touchdown, I mean, I'm not going to trust Derek Carrier. So really, as low as I would go is probably going to be Zay Jones this week because everyone else is really not in play for me. But we can try to build a lineup here. I've not tried to build a lineup yet. So let's go with the captain spot. Let's plug in Keenan Allen for right now. We'll see. I got to get Phillip Rivers in. I want to get Mike Williams in. Maybe we can get Josh Jacobs. It's 4,800. Probably going to have to go down to a kicker now at this point. That's going to give us 5,900 left. And I have to... Hunter Renfrow's there at 6K. Maybe we can go with Zay Jones. He might be fine. 7,100. That gives us what? Austin Ekeler? Yeah, something like that. I don't hate it. Maybe if we want to... I don't know. Maybe if we want to go Mike Williams captain, get a little weird. We can go with that. He's 11,000. We can get Derek Carr in. No, not Derek Carr. Phillip Rivers. Keenan Allen. Maybe Hunter Henry. 5,700 left. Get a kicker. That leaves us 7,700 left. I think we can get maybe someone like Melvin Gordon. I'm just playing around. Don't plug these in. I'm just trying to see what roster construction will look like. But it's really not that hard to make a lineup that you can like this week. You got plenty of options. No one's overly expensive, so you can pretty much go any way you want. It's not that hard. So I'm not saying it's not that hard to cash this week. It's just not hard to build a lineup that you might like. It's always going to be hard to cash. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. If it was helpful, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Helps me out. Really appreciate it. Getting closer to 2K subs. Hopefully we can get to that soon. And follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. Spreadsheets available in the link description below. Check out the NBA content if you haven't. It's been a very good season for NBA so far. And I don't give out lineups or anything. I just, do content for that. But yeah. All right. I'll see you guys in the next video. Wish you guys the best of luck.